Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my patch 8.17 patch note rundown. Last time, I didn't play that much League and I didn't have a really good idea of the current meta, so I didn't want to make any comments before we started. This time, I'm pretty sure I know my thoughts on the current meta and what I want to change. So first of all, I like to look at, Corrupting Potion and its synergy with both Dark Seal and Time Warp Tonic. I think it's warping the mid lane meta quite a bit. Aha. And I think that it is something that Riot should be keeping a pretty close eye on. Additionally, I think that I'm not going to talk about huge meta changes because they obviously said they were not going to do that till after Worlds is done, and I understand why. So I like to maybe look at stuff in terms of the powerhouse ADs. Kai'Sa right now is looking that she's just untouchable. Every time the items get nerfed that she uses different items. So because she tends to scale off almost every item in the game, it's hard to really hit her hit her power level without directly nerfing her. She's one of the champions I'm looking at as like extremely powerful. And I'm not quite sure what else. I think generally the other stuff has like, it's strong but has some counters here and there. Those two things I'm probably looking at the most as I'm going into this patch note rundown. So let's keep going. This is when Nunu's new groove hits the Summoner's Rift. Forearm Buddy will impact his hand. Okay, cool. I don't care about Nunu. I mean, I care about Nunu. I played them a lot this season, actually, full AP. I'll definitely try them in the new season, but I want to know what else they added. Like, Nunu is just like, the stuff on top. Okay, so let's see. Champions Nunu and Willop. The boy and his Yeti start their adventures. Sure, I don't care about this. Annie, attack range increased. Right now, Annie doesn't have much gameplay outside of dumping all disposal range. Returning her longer range attack speed lets her trade her and harass with autos as an alternate pattern of aggression. Oh my god. They're actually doing this. I don't think people remember when Annie had 325 range. She was disgusting. Especially as a bot laner support. So people who don't remember this are gonna earn for a wild ride because if you're against like long range threats such as, let's say, Annie, Caitlyn, and you really get to understand just how much 50 more range means. So at 625 range, she has the longer duration in the game outside Caitlyn, which is at I think 650. And so this is huge. I thought they would kind of shift her over to like 600 range. This makes even a big deal in mid lane because you're able to kind of walk up and around the creeps and harass more with your autos. This is a pretty big laning like buff across the board. It may allow her to put pressure out where she couldn't touch other matchups. The biggest problem about her champion Kit was that she wasn't able to poke people down well enough before she did the all in, so she just got poked down relentlessly. Now though that she can actually do that, it's gonna get really interesting, especially in bot lane and mid lane. Bot lane especially, I think that she may not be very good into the all in supports, but she's definitely gonna be one of those champions that can punish like I guess like squishy supports. Stuff for instance like Janna is something that Annie would be very primed to punish. Bard, our cooldown decrease. Bard's lane phase is already strong enough. That's not true. Its overall gameplay could use a bit more power. Wanted to give everyone's favorite time gathering support more playmaking opportunities so he doesn't feel barred from using his ulti for fear of its long cooldown. So I think Bard's in a really bad spot right now. Generally when I see a Bard, I think free win because it's really hard to itemize Bard. I don't even know what an optimal build on Bard looks like because the only thing I know is that he values CDR and every other item just is random. And I think that that's crazy because even after all this time there's still like Bard in the current meta explodes literally into confetti if he ever gets caught. So it's like I think that he's just in like a kind of a bad spot, doesn't have great itemization routes either. I am open to any kind of buffs on him, so I think, hey, if you get him out of lane then he gets considerable buffs for it. I think he's one of the coolest supports to have in the game and probably one of the most fun supports to play. So I am down for these buffs, especially because he also got some. He's also relatively weak right now, so all good on my boat. Fiora, crit damage on second attack, increase her early ranks. Fiora's late game power pretty strong, but she can use more dueling power in the early game, so she got 20% more crit damage on the second auto. Seems pretty irrelevant, to be honest. What is more crit damage? You're doing. Your auto attack does 80 damage, so your crit between a you crit at 200 does 160. So you're doing 10 to 15 more damage on your second E early game. I think it's pretty irrelevant, to be honest. I would think nerfs to her counter picks are probably going to be better than anything done to her. Garen, Q damage decreased at later ranks. Garen spun his way to top lane dominance as of late, and Q early game leaves opponents a few opportunities to trade well. Really? Nerfed his Q base damage. I don't know. Garen's like this unstoppable monster, man. He doesn't scale very well. He's very binary in what he does. Like, I played against Risty, you know, Riste. He's like one of the better or one of the best Garen players, and it's just like, well, he's playing Garen, so he's limited by the champion. I honestly think he needed to be changed. I think that Garen is easy to play, and so playing Garen into other characters is quite easier than playing and learning new characters. So I think that's probably why, you know, he's got a decent amount of dominance. But yeah, I don't really think he deserved these nerfs. Aurelia Q damage bonus to minions increase. We're putting some laning functionality back into Aurelia's Q. Does she need buffs? I don't play Aurelia enough, so I really only see Aurelia when she gets out of lane. And when she gets out of lane, if she's even or ahead, she just monsters the game. Like, just unbeatable god. This. And so maybe she does need these buffs. These buffs, they don't exactly harm her actual I guess, or they don't increase her damage, which is a great thing. So like, I'm down if her laning is really this bad, but I don't necessarily know if she's really this bad at laning, especially because she's typically playable in 2 different roles. Okay, Kassadin, our cooldown decreased at early ranks. Really? They buffed Kassadin. Oh my god. Okay, this is a big buff. 1 second off cooldown early is lovely as Kassadin, especially because some of the Kassadins are skipping. Like, I'm skipping tier a lot of the games, so but you're not investing a lot in the early CDR. Like, the 1 second is a full second you're just getting at level 6. That's fantastic as a Kassadin player. Like, this is really nice. I don't necessarily think Kassadin needs buffs. I think he's situationally good into a lot of different champions, so I'll take it though, but I don't think he needs it. I think a lot of other champions could use buffs. Like I look at these champions and I'm just like, are these the champions that need to be buffed? No, like, I'd much rather see buffs into people like Veigar, champions like, you know, Lux, champions like Cat, Diana. I just, you know, maybe throw, I don't know, kind of other champions, you know. But sure, this is really nice though, for sure. Kayn, E duration increased early, Shadow E movement increased. Especially a Shadow Assassin struggling to stay competitive around other junglers, his buff should help him move around the map and through terrain. Oh, wow, it stays 2 more seconds long? Huh. It's a nice small buff to Shadow. The only problem is Shadow is only usable probably like 20% of the time, and in solo queue you're probably using it like 5 to 10%, maybe less. 1 in 20 games. And the reason is because red is so much more flexible. It's a frontline CC machine, and blue only helps you assassinate. And usually, if you can only go blue if you're heavily like smashing and you have a frontline pressure through Alistar or some tank top lane. So these buffs are like nice stylistically for that type of playstyle or that kind of form. I don't think there's any problem with these. You know, I kind of agree that he needs a little bit of help. Master Yi. W cooldown decrease, damage reduction increased early. Meditate can be a strong defensive tool, but it's often underappreciated by players who use it primarily for heal. Will give me a small buff to encourage use during rather than after combat. I mean, it's slightly nice. I doubt it'll do anything. Yeah, that'll do anything. The cooldown buff is really big though. 7 seconds on any ability is a lot. But yeah, I don't think this will matter. I think Master Yi just has problems with the fact that, you know, he's a champion with no CC that brings nothing but damage. Similar to Cat, so if you can skirmish Master Yi, you lose. Or like Master Yi isn't relevant. And If you have CC, Master Yi isn't relevant until he can break it or his teammates can break it. So he's a champion which I personally hate to play with Master Yi, because if you're playing with Master Yi, the only way you can do it, the game becomes Master Yi's game. So if he's on your team, you're waiting for him to farm to become relevant, or you're assisting him to become relevant. And if he's on the enemy team, you're smashing his lanes before he becomes relevant, or you're smashing him. Whatever happens, I just feel like Master Yi is not a real fun champion to play around. And I think that like the way he warps the game is like not an enjoyable experience for me personally. However, I understand that's my own personal opinion on the matter. I think buffs to him are okay because he's relatively weak. I'm always down to buff weaker champions. I don't think this will help that much. But the 10% more damage and this cooldown is like a little, it's a small bit. It's nice. Just because you're probably gonna max this last. Rengar, our cooldown decreased early. Really? We're also trying to tone down upfront damage in League overall. I think Rengar is not in a bad spot at all. Like, all the Rengar one tricks I see are pretty good. I don't think he's bad at all. I'm surprised we keep buffing him at, wow, 20 seconds off. This is like a cooldown buff you give to like a not a Moo, like whatchamacallit, Bard, because he's doing so poorly. But every time I see Rengar, I don't think of Rengar as a champion that's bad. I think of Rengar as a champion that like one tricks play and are very, very powerful on. So surprised he's getting a buff. Varus, base health decreased, health growth increased. He's definitely too strong right now. I think Varus is a champion that is potentially the best AD in the game at the moment. Has extremely good matchups, can be built different flexible ways, both poke oriented build as well as on hit build to shred tanks. And I think that he is also has a CC initiation, which is hard to get in the AD role. So Varus is kind of the all-rounder who's great at everything. And I think that, yeah, him getting some nerfs, well deserved. Wukong now has level 1 bonus attack speed. Oh, so he's slightly better in jungle. Sure, he's pretty weak in the jungle. I'm down for this. Why not? Yorick, Mistwalker damage decreased. What? The decreased load pub stomp potential. I don't. Which top players are unearthing Yorick as a dominant pick? Like, who are they? I've not seen it. I don't think Yorick is oppressive. I think that he's very, very linear in how he plays, kind of like really only relevant on split pushing, and he's not super strong at all. So like it's a low elo nerf that affects high elo that really sucks, because it means this champ is never going to get balanced at this damage point then, because good players are just going to play around it better, right? Like it even says right here, players who understand the Mistwalker's behavior actively play around it avoid a lot of damage. And so now the damage is more negligible. I think that this is such a stupid nerf. Like I don't like it at all. Taric, adaptive damage now defaults to physical. Taric's passive means he benefits a decent amount of basic attacks. So now defaults to physical. Taric has no bonus AD or AP. Very, very, very small buff. Sure. Item Stormrazor. Okay. Stormrazor and Duskblade have been really problematic items. They're items that are essentially, I guess, cheat the curve. I'm super happy they're nerfing Stormrazor. Super happy. The state of the game right now, which I think Worlds is over. So the state of the game right now is the game is so early game focused, and Riot puts it this way. Okay, so the game is so early game focused that the first item spike matters for everyone. Everyone scales on the 2 or at the first item spike, and if you don't, then you aren't relevant in the game. So AD carries are a class that is usually built to scale around 2 items plus. But because they literally couldn't exist in this meta without scaling earlier, Stormrazor is invented. And Stormrazor was then overloaded to be a huge item spike for these AD carries. And so it got to the point where like Stormrazor essentially messed up the entire scaling curve of AD carries, because throughout history, like the scaling curve of ADs is like, okay, they're really big on, like, they're moving up, they're like decent on their first item, and then they on their second item they're like, oh, they're really big, and on the third item they're like explosive. Like a 3-item spike AD carry is like what you use to win games, pretty much. But what ends up happening is like there's a huge spike on Stormrazor now, and then like there's a small spike on the second item, and then another big spike when you get IE. And so a lot of times you don't really even need IE. So I don't like how Stormrazor kind of messes over the curve of the game. And that was more like a problem with, I think, the state of the game than it is the current game. But I think that is a problem. I'm glad they're looking to nerf it, for sure. I don't think the AD should spike nearly as hard at first item, and I don't think the champions abusing this item should be spiking either, because I'm seeing assassins buy this, and I don't think they should be. And Dustblade is a big problem when it comes to big problem when it comes to assassin damage. Like pretty much if you're an assassin, you have to buy Dustblade, because without it you can't assassinate well. And so it's like the DFG for Dustblade. And a big part of why DFG got removed because it was impacting AP carries way too much. And Dustblade feels the exact same for AD Assassins. So I'm glad that both of these are getting nerfed, because some of the AD Assassins are getting Stormrazor too. And I'm surprised they're not nerfing this a little bit more. They're buffing the lethality, which is a little bit strange, but they're nerfing the overall damage. I would have expected a bigger nerf on this item, or maybe in the future a full complete rework. This isn't actually that big of a nerf. If they're giving you 3 lethality with this, and taking away 50 damage, it's like, it's a big nerf past like level 11, I guess, but like it's still, you'll still buy this. Like I will still buy this every game. Cool. All right, let's keep going. Bug fixes. Oh, I heard about this. The bug where Akali's second R deals damage to all opponents based on the health of the last enemy struck rather than calculating for each damage individually. Yes, this fix helped out a lot. And these skins are sick. Dude, Riot's been killing it on the skin splash arts. Like I don't even need to play the champion. I can just look at the splash arts. This looks like that Nicolas Cage movie, Ghost Rider. This is great. Sick skin. Really. This doesn't even look like Talon, but sick skin. This is like Wuxia inspired, right? Both of these for sure. It's even they call it Immortal Journey. Wow. This is, I would have been pretty pissed at this patch, actually. I think I expected way more stuff. I understand they're not doing that much, but I expected more changes moving forward. And instead I didn't get that much this patch. I will say though, I'm super happy with the Stormrazor nerf. I think this alone salvaged the patch for me. Like this patch should have been like a 4 out of 10. But the Stormrazor like pushes up to like, okay, you got it. This is a big problem in the games. Thank God you hit it right now. And I am very happy that this got hit. So happy that like it kind of salvaged the rest of the patch. Overall, this is definitely probably one of the lowest impact patches of on an individual champion basis for the entire year. There's really not much to read between the lines. So unless you're one of these individual champions that got buffed or nerfed, and there's not that many, like hard buffed and hard nerfed, we're looking at like what, Kassadin, Annie, Rengar, Varus. This is not a big patch for you unless you play ADs, because Assassins will still build this anyways. So, this has definitely been the shortest patch rundown I've had this year. I guess thank God for Stormrazor for salvaging this patch rundown, because I would have expected other things to get nerfed. Specifically, you know, I was thinking Tonic Water, I was thinking Kaisa. I'm hoping that maybe they're spending some time to think about it and they'll nerf it next patch, or look at it next patch. All right, thanks for tuning in. Let's go back to some League.